unprecedented moment.
It is an important day here.
It is a historic meeting.
The first time in the history of North Korea.
The first North Korean leader to visit the South.
It's really extraordinary.
Oh, they're here holding hands.
Oh, he went back into the north. Look at that.
Words can't describe what this moment means.
Babe!
Yeah?
Can you get me the salt?
Wait, why?
Kim Jong-un is talking about peace again. It's a very exciting time to be living here in South Korea. For the first time in history, a North Korean leader has come down into the South, and the two governments are talking about putting an official end to the Korean War, which, in case you didn't already know this, hasn't actually happened yet. For the last 65 years, there has been an armistice agreement between the two countries, but this is more like a ceasefire and a truce, and it is not a peace treaty. And while that may sound crazy to you, what sounds even crazier to those of us here in South Korea is that Kim Jong-un is even talking about peace at all. Wasn't he just firing off test missiles less than 6 months ago? And yet now, all of a sudden, there's peace in the air. The church bells are ringing, and South Koreans are quite literally flying flags of peace and reunification. Although I think they did that before too. Yep, they are a hopeful people. But back to the video. So is the Korean War about to end? Is Kim Jong-un actually going to denuclearize? And are angry tweets about little rocket men and bigger buttons going to go the way of Blockbuster Video? Maybe. And in case that does happen, I am making today's video as a record of what living under a hostile North Korea has been like. This way, when my grandchildren ask me where I was standing when peace came to the peninsula, I can proudly tell them that I was sitting under my table and making a video. Whoa. When we first moved to South Korea, we weren't worried about Kim Jong-un or the possibility of going to war. It wasn't gonna happen. We weren't worried at all. Well, that is until a month later when North Korea carried out 3 missile tests and we experienced the cycle for the first time. What is the cycle? I'm glad you asked. The cycle goes like this. Here's Kim Jong-un. He's the terrible dictator of North Korea, and his goal is to keep himself and his posterity secure and alive. To do this, he needs to keep his subjects from revolting while at the same time preventing other countries from invading. The answer to both of these is to create a cycle of peace baiting and warmongering. You see, if Kim makes himself look crazy and arms himself with nukes, then other people probably won't invade. And at the same time, this makes him look like a strong leader to his own people, and they're a lot more likely to submit to his tyranny if it seems like the only other alternative is invasion from foreign enemies. Of course, there is a downside to this strategy. If Kim provokes his rivals too much, then they just might invade out of desperation. And so, he balances this warmongering with peace baiting. North Korea will dominate the headlines for months, launch missiles, and push the world to the brink of nuclear war before suddenly pulling back and opening up for negotiations. The world sighs in relief, lends financial aid, withdraws sanctions, and gives North Korea breathing room. After all, they must be serious this time, right? But soon, the missile launches are back, Twitter wars erupt, and the warmongering is on again. Of course, this is a massive simplification of the situation and doesn't get into the effects of China and the US. But it bears mentioning because this is a cycle that has repeated itself numerous times over the years. Yes, I knew about the cycle before moving to South Korea, but knowing about something and experiencing it firsthand are two very different things. All through April, May, and June, North Korea kept conducting missile tests. And so for a while there, we lived in this really strange limbo where we didn't believe war was coming, but at the same time, we also knew where the nearest evacuation routes were and had spent considerable time learning about the nature of nuclear fallout. For a while, this made me wonder, am I a bad husband by keeping us here? Am I needlessly putting us in danger? I tried to rationalize the situation. After all, expats who had been here longer than us weren't worried, so we shouldn't be either, right? Or maybe they were just desensitized. All that to say, for the first few months, it really felt like North Korea was this massive weight right above our heads, and that the smallest feather could cause the whole thing to come crashing down on us. psychologically, it was a very draining experience. And then things got easier, because we got used to it. By our 5th month in Korea, Kim Jong-un had carried out 7 missile tests. And by that 5-month mark, it was getting easier and easier for us to not start worrying when they happened. It was also around this time that we had to make a decision about whether or not we would stay in Korea for a 2nd year. We thought and prayed a lot about it, and in the end, we decided to stay. And we are very glad that we did. It was during this phase that North Korea felt a lot like this. A threat, yes, but far enough away that we didn't need to actively worry about it. Nonetheless, there were still times when we second-guessed our decision to stay another year, especially as summer rolled around and Trump began talking about fire and fury, and North Korea tested their first hydrogen bomb. 5 days after this nuclear test, we visited the DMZ for the first time. It happens to be the 69th anniversary of North Korea today, and coincidentally, it is also the day we chose to visit the DMZ. Hopefully no missiles get shot off because they'll cancel our tour if they do.
If North Korea does happen to come down or send more soldiers down to take pictures of you guys, don't be afraid. I highly recommend and encourage that you take pictures of them back.
It's not quite so distant of a country like you think of North Korea. You can't really put a face on it, kind of. It's just hard to imagine, hard to envision, but then you're actually like there. You see the mountains in North Korea, the flag in North Korea. It's just really incredible.
Touring the DMZ was a very surreal experience, and like Grace said, it really helped us put a face on our enemy in the north. Prior to this, we had built up an image in our minds of what North Korea was. Something along the lines of a vicious, powerful adversary who was preparing to destroy the world. But seeing the country and its soldiers with our own eyes changed everything. We came away from the DMZ seeing North Korea as a paper tiger. Yes, this tiger has nukes, but like I said earlier, its #1 goal is survival. And since starting a war would effectively be suicide for the Kim regime, they're not going to start anything. And that brings us back to today. We've been living in Korea for well over a year now, and can honestly say that we never worry about North Korea. Either because our logic is sound and they aren't actually a threat, or because we become yet another pair of desensitized expats. I like to think it's the first option. Whatever the case, it looks like the threat of North Korea may soon be going away completely. Kim Jong-un seems to be extending an olive branch, and there's even talk of Nobel Peace Prizes in the air. But is the little rocket man pursuing true peace and reconciliation, or is this merely a more elaborate version of the same old cycle? Why don't you guys let me know what you think down in the comments?
Good? Is it recording?
That's it for this video. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you hit that like button.
And also be sure and subscribe so that you can follow along on all of our adventures.